Sometimes I feel like this is a one-way street. I want you to tell me how either excited or disappointed you are about the Krakoan era coming to an end. I want you to tell me how excited or disappointed you are about this new era that's about to start. I want you to tell me how excited or disappointed I am based on how I tell this story. My name is Dorian. This is SEM Comics. We are concluding our coverage of the Krakoan era. We are also starting our coverage of From the Ashes with X-Men number 35 or Uncanny X-Men 700. So a story starts off, the majority of you guys know the story by now. There was a man named Charles Xavier. He was a mutant telepath and he was also a teacher. He started a school. He brought in 5 students. Those 5 students became a team. That team became superheroes. They started a nation for the second time, because they did this once. They also met their mutant cousins from another dimension. They thrive on their mutant island. And then tragedy struck. War came, and then Charles Xavier was broken. And with all broken men, he had to do bad things. And now he has to pay for his crimes. He surrendered to human justice. He might not be facing it, because somebody put road spikes in the middle of the road that takes out these bikes. And then Wolverine jumps up out of nowhere, attacks the first truck that he sees. Dude's yelling, "Mayday, Mayday." The X-Men try to free the prisoner. Wolverine smashes through the windows, goes, "Not quite, bub. Let me get the wheel." And then that vehicle goes flying. So then he yells, "If you're listening, I'll see you in a minute, Chuck." So all you hear is blam, blam. Somebody is screaming. Another person yells, "Run." Then all of a sudden you hear blam, blam. That means Wolverine is out there doing his thing. You hear some scratching, and then all of a sudden you see them 3 patented claws just cut through the container. All of a sudden Wolverine sticks his head in, and he looks just like Jack Nicholson. I expect him to say, "Here's Johnny," but instead he goes, "Hello, Chuck." So then Wolverine's like, "You got anything to say to me? Anything that'll make me retract these claws and walk away?" Charles Xavier says nothing. Wolverine goes, "All right then." And he's about to stab the hell out of him, and then he stopped. And he goes, "Damn it, let me do what I gotta do." And all you hear is no. It's Magneto. So Magneto's like, "No more martyrs, Logan." So Wolverine's like, "Let me end this, Magneto." So Magneto's like, "His life is not your life to end, Logan." So then Charles is like, "Would you excuse me, Logan? I need to talk to my old friend." So then Magneto just waves his hand and Wolverine goes flying into the wilderness. So then Magneto's like, "Let's adjourn to somewhere more private," as he floats the container somewhere else. So somewhere else is still in midair. And Magneto's like, Charles, how did we get here?" And then Charles doesn't even bat an eyelash. He goes, "You quit, you died, and I made choices. People died, the rest live, and now I'm paying for them. What happened to you, Max?" And he goes, "That name finally sounds natural. It's like you said, Charles. I quit, I died, and then I saw what my choices made. And did he ever?" We're talking about the resurrection of Magneto. If you need to catch up with that, link will be in the description. So he starts to explain himself. It's very long-winded. He kind of sounds like Charles Xavier, but with like a Magneto flair, but he definitely does sound like Charles Xavier. And Professor Xavier laughs. And Magneto's like, "Charles?" And Professor Xavier's like, "Even now, you don't say it. After years of arguing with you till dawn, after I compromised and forced a nation of your mutant essentialisms, you have new guys now. I didn't say that. You said that. And after I sacrificed the best parts of myself to save everyone from our hubris, now you turn and say Xavier was right." So the Magneto goes, "Oh, Charles, is that all you have left?" And I would love for Charles Xavier to say, "Look around. Yes." And he goes, "In the end, I'm happy for you, Max. You've chosen a good fight, and I hope you win. It will be a better world. Now, take me to my cell." Then he goes, "Oh my, I can't believe it." And Magneto goes, "What?" And the Atlantic side of Krakoa, the one that was lost in the white hot room, appears out of nowhere right next to the Pacific side of Krakoa. So Cypher is there to greet him, but he doesn't recognize who's coming down the steps. And it's Kafka. He's like, "I am from the Quiet Council." So Cypher's like, "You're their leader?" And he goes, "No, our Quiet Council doesn't work like that. You see, we're the quiet council, so we listen. That's why we're quiet. So Kafka pretty much explains how it's been 15 years in there for them, even though it's only been a few weeks on Earth. They had their ups and downs. There was a time where it was tubers for every meal phase. That was the only kind of food they could actually grow. But they evolved, and so did Krakoa. And as it comes out to speak to Sam, Sam's like, oh, you have evolved. You're speaking a whole different language from our Krakoa. So since there's kind of a language barrier, Cypher has to be the one to kind of bridge the gap and reintroduce the two. So Professor Xavier is not the only person who realized that Krakoa is a whole island again, and the rest of the X-Men show up in the Blackbird. So Emma starts talking to Doug telepathically. She's like, we're here. Jean is trying to calm down Exodus because he is terribly excited. I'm talking to world leaders to stop them from launching the offensive, so if you can give me an update to what's going on so we can avoid a war. And then she goes, oh my, are we watching Island Sex? As the Atlantic side picks up the Pacific side. And Doug's like, definitely not. When things settle down, come down here to explore. But if you want to talk, you know where to go. To the old quiet council chambers. So Exodus is calling him Little Kafka still, even though he's grown as hell. Because technically Exodus is still bigger than him. So Cyclops does not recognize Kafka and does not know what the hell's going on. Jean starts to break down what's happening because she's been observing the White Hot Room, and I guess she just decided not to share it with the class. So Cyclops is like, you stayed in the White Hot Room. Was it hard? And Casco's like, yes, it was very hard, but it was perfect because we had the 4, we had the Cradle, we had both databases, we had Hope because even though Hope died, she kind of became a part of like the island too, and the Phoenix. It's kind of weird. We'll go over it later or not. But most of all, we had time. And then Emma goes, oh my, they did it. And then you turn the page and you see they brought back all of the 15 million mutants that died on Genosha. So all you X-Men 97 fans, yes, there will be a happy ending. It's going to take about a quarter of a century, but it's going to happen. So they're pretty much there so that these mutants can reconnect with their families and to collect the Pacific side of the island so that it can be whole again. Now, some of these mutants, and it's a select few, are actually going to stay on Earth. The rest are going with the island, and the island is going somewhere else. I don't know what's going back to the White Hot Room, but they're not staying on Earth. And Exodus loses it. He has an Omega level meltdown of epic proportions. So the Kafka starts to fly away. He's like, you know, this is exactly why we're leaving. And he goes, oh, and Apocalypse shows up. And he goes, speak, brother mutant, tell Apocalypse of what occurs. So on the next page, we see all the X-Men trying to calm down Exodus. And for those of you that aren't really familiar with Exodus, he is a heavy hitter. I mean, heavy. When he was a bad guy, some of you guys probably say, oh, well, he's acting like a bad guy now. Yes and no. But when he was a bad guy, he used to take out whole X-Men teams by himself. Like, he is a whole problem. And the person who found Exodus and actually awakened his powers was Apocalypse. So Apocalypse is pretty much like, so he doesn't want the island to go, huh? Let me talk to him. So Apocalypse goes, stand down, Acolyte. Has a few meanings to it. So Apocalypse, like I said before, is the one who found Exodus, and he's also the one who awoken his powers. So Exodus was beholden to Apocalypse, but eventually that relationship kind of soured. Now, he eventually found Magneto, and Hope is not the first mutant that he thought was the mutant messiah. No, the original one was Magneto, and Magneto had his acolytes. Exodus was one of them. So Exodus shoots out some laser beams and goes, I was only yours for minutes. Hits Apocalypse. Apocalypse walks right through it and goes, once mine, you're always mine. And whatever I gave you, I can take away. Apocalypse grabs him by the head, hurls him into the ground, and starts putting them hands all over Exodus, talking about nothing. And then X-Men are just watching. Like, this is like when you're like a kid or you're a teenager, you're starting to become a man and you're getting stronger and you think you can test your dad. And your dad has to remind you that he brought you into this world and he can take you right out. So Exodus is hurt. And Apocalypse stands up and goes, so Spear Kafka, show me what my children have built. So Kafka starts showing them around and he's explaining, and he's just trying to explain very respectfully that they have moved on from the ways that they did on Earth, and they have moved on from the ways of Apocalypse. Now it's story time. I had a football coach who I used to say lived by the Old Testament. He was hellfire and brimstone. He was fussing, cussing, yelling, and screaming, and that's what he knew, because that's all he knew. Apocalypse comes from a place where it is survival of the fittest. Survival of the fittest. And they are all Omega level mutants. Just about every one of them is an Omega level mutant. And now you gonna come with your fairy wings and pretty much tell this man that his ways is pretty much bullshit and we don't need him no more. Did you not see what he just did to Exodus? And Exodus didn't even begin to disrespect this man like you just did. What do you think is about to happen? So Apocalypse was like, in a nutshell, so you think my ways are old and outdated, huh? Let me tap into my inner Jay-Z and allow me to reintroduce myself. As Kafka goes up into the air and comes crashing down into the ground about 3 feet into it. So yeah, some might call elixir. So Apocalypse goes, my ideas were not radical enough. I was far too lenient, so there will now be pain. So Armor goes, he's compromised. And all I'm thinking to myself, no, he ain't compromised. He's back, baby, as he flicks her away. He goes, who saved Rocco? I did. Frenzy steps up, they got some history. He pretty much knocks her out and goes, who saved Krakoa? I did. So the Iceman steps up, he tries to freeze him, and that's not going to work. He just spits some kind of, looks like fire, might not be fire, something. Anyway, breaks the ice. And then at first, this dude tells him to stop. Hey, look, we survived, we won. And at first, I didn't know who this was. I'm like, then he called him Julio, and I was like, oh, that's Richter. Richter's an old school character. Like, I think he was like late 80s, early 90s, X-Force, back when Cable was in charge of it. So, yeah, he's been around. But he gets dispatched too, because this is Apocalypse we're talking about, people. Apocalypse. So Kafka is tougher than he looks. He gets up, or he gets helped up, and he goes, you need to calm down, in a very weak voice. Now, I don't know if you got old school parents, like I had old school parents, but during the ass whooping, the last thing they want to hear is any opinion out of their kid that they happen to be whooping their ass. So Apocalypse goes, I'm not angry, I'm simply Apocalypse, and mere survival is never enough. So now all the X-Men are pretty much attacking Apocalypse. And what the hell is Deadpool doing there? Like, what's going on? He's a mutate. He's not a mutant. Oh, that's right. They do have this movie coming out, so him and Wolverine are besties. So Apocalypse goes, know that I love you, as I always have, even as I break you. Whoever wrote this portion of the comic book, they had parents just like mine. So all of a sudden, Doom shows up, and I'm like, oh, all hell's breaking loose, and now we got Dr. Doom here. Apocalypse is officially back, and these two about to go at it. I'm like, best comic book ever. Again, whoever wrote this portion of the comic, they was like, hold your horses, homeboy. He tells Volta that he needs a Krakoan seed. She needs to go down there and grab one, but not to be seen. She goes, it shall be done. She goes down there. Obviously, she grabs one, and somebody sees her. She goes, hello, young one. I was never here. Do you understand? And she disappears, or use her lightning power. Goes back, hands Doom the seed. He goes, were you seen? And she obviously lies and goes, not even by the island. So now we got 3 of the original X-Men attacking Apocalypse in Beast, Iceman, and Cyclops. And if you notice that the art keeps changing, because there is a lot of artists on this book, and then there's a lot of writers on this book too. So now Sunfire attacks Apocalypse. Now, if you remember me, the X-Men read, Apocalypse is the one who saves Sunfire. So yes, this is kind of a portrayal. where the hell's Red Root? Like, a Red Root was attached, and I know they said if Red Root comes off of Sunfire, then Sunfire would die. Like, I guess I didn't read the part where Red Root actually got detached. So, but another story, another day. So now Colossus comes and hits him with a Mike Tyson uppercut. I mean, jawed Apocalypse. And in the narration bubble, it goes, Colossus and Apocalypse trade blows until every ear on Krakoa is ringing. But we know who got the last hit, right? It was Apocalypse. Hit him so hard, he hit him into the Krakoan tree and cracked that thing. So the Apocalypse walks over and is like, don't rise again unless it's under my banner. Pretty much telling them, unless you're on my side, won't you get your ass up? So then he yells, who will join me? Ask yourself, have I been hard on you? Yes, but have I ever lied to you? So then Storm throws down some lightning and goes, Apocalypse will speak, not you. And remember, the era of resurrection has ended. Apocalypse is spitting some gangster lines, and so is Storm. So Storm goes, I can't change your minds with words, can I? Apocalypse goes, no. So Storm's like, all right, want to close your argument against the X-Men? And Apocalypse like, of course. So Wolverine steps up. Apocalypse like, you oppose me? Wolverine's like, yeah. The kids have spoken, old man, and they don't want what you're selling. And then Deadpool comes behind him and goes, that's why I'm here, for sales. And Wolverine stabs him through the side of his mouth. Apocalypse goes, these loathsome metal claws are so human. Are they? Because if I had some of those, I'd be in jail. I'd probably be up in the jail. Like it wouldn't have been a good thing for me to have adamantium claws that pretty much cut through anything. So the Apocalypse like, you cannot kill me. And he grabs the other arm of Wolverine. And Wolverine's like, oh crud. He uses his arm and he stabs Wolverine in his kidney. Then he takes the same arm and he stabs him in his own throat. And Apocalypse goes, I will teach you pain, child. So all of a sudden, all you hear is a bam. Wolverine disappears, so you know it smells like farts. It must be really bad because Apocalypse even coughed. And Apocalypse goes, do you impede me, Nightcrawler? So the Nightcrawler's like, Apocalypse, this madness needs to stop. Do you intend to rule a dead species? And Apocalypse goes, and that's the weakness I'm talking about. That's the weakness that's going to lead to our ruin. So Nightcrawler goes, I'm not weak, especially when I can purge you into darkness with just a thought. And he bamps out of there, so it smells like farts. And he took Apocalypse's eyes with him. Like, holy shit, Nightcrawler. It's one of the most gangster things I've ever seen him do. And this is how you know Apocalypse is back to being Apocalypse, because he could even bat an eyelash. He goes, I have fought in the darkness for longer than you could imagine. So Nightcrawler bams back where Logan is at, and Logan starting to heal. And he goes, you got cojones, elf. So Nightcrawler's like, and I got his eyeballs. Whew. This holy roller is gangster. And so Wolverine goes, oh, I like my idea better. So Emma steps up, tries to use her telepathy, thinking like, if you can't see me, then everything should be fine. And Apocalypse like, huh, so you're trying this, huh? Oh, unfortunately, I'm not here for your wisdom. Emma goes, oh dear, turns into a diamond form, which is a good thing, because Apocalypse hit her so hard, she is skipping across the ocean like somebody would skip a rock across a pond. So all of a sudden, this little phoenix bird shows up on Apocalypse's shoulder. We're going to call it Little Hope. That's Little Hope. And Apocalypse goes, I was wondering how he was going to enter the fray. So Jean floats down and goes, before I gathered her, I will admit that Emma was right. All the mutants from Genosha have returned. 15 years have passed on Krakoa. They haven't had to deal with Sentinels or Reverend Stryker or Orcus for a long time. So the Jean continues and goes, they don't know who the X-Men are. And then Emma, as she pulls seaweed off her and goes, and they have no need for them. So then Jean uses her telepathy and goes, look at all their minds. Look for yourself, Apocalypse. They're Krakoans. They're everything that you wanted mutant them to be. That's what they are. But you're too busy fighting to actually see that. So Apocalypse goes, I see millions of minds. I also see that my magic has brought us to this point, but it holds no sway over this undiscovered country. And the Apocalypse disappears. So then Cyclops goes to Wolverine and goes, he's gone. And Wolverine's like, honestly, I wasn't looking forward to round 2. In other words, are you want something too, old man? Huh? No. So now that all the craziness is over and everybody had a chance to heal, especially Kafka, Nightcrawler's walking with him, talking to him, and Cavilla's like, why don't you just join us? Why don't you just leave this place and come with us? And Nightcrawler pretty much explains to him, like, look, there's work to be done here. Like, this technically is our home. We are humans. We might be mutants, but we're also human. And we need to fix things here before we go off somewhere else. And Cavilla's like, well, whenever you're ready, door's always open. And Nightcrawler's like, I'll hold you to that. And then he bamps out of there. So it smells like farts. So then they said the X-Men are out in the Pacific Ocean waiting. Now how they standing on water, who knows, people? Maybe Jean's holding them up. This is comics. So pretty much they're seeing the last moments of Krakoa as it prepares to disappear. Everybody's crying, including Cyclops. They ain't show Wolverine because, you know, can't break character. And it shows the island whose face is now on like a mountainside. And it shows the X symbol that we've been using ever since the Krakoan Age started. And it says in the narration bubble, so ends the first Krakoan Age. So that means it's going to be a second. Please tell me it's going to be a second. Like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, just let there be a second. So now we cut back to Morocco. You got Apocalypse, little demon sidekick. He goes, hey there, Big A. Man, you look beat. And Apocalypse goes, I look beaten? Yeah, I do. I offered my children to keep doing things my way, and I was rejected. Maybe my time is over. Maybe it's time for me to choose an heir. And we're going to be covering that starting next week. Yes, we're going to cover all 4 issues. I must stress, at the time of recording. At the time of this recording, the week after the time of this recording. So then we cut to an Orchid cell where Mother Rises is still sitting. Then out of nowhere, Dr. Stasis, Bargain Ben Sinister comes up out of nowhere. Now, we know he's dead. We know he's dead. Well, the Righteous don't know he's dead. And we're about to find out on the next page that that is a problem. Because it's Mystique. And she found out what she did to Destiny. And she ain't having it. And she takes out Mother Righteous. So now all the Sinisters have been dealt with. Except for our tried and true one. Unless he got dealt with during the wedding issue. I don't know if he got dealt with the wedding. I heard he left a gift for them on the wedding issue. I don't know if he got dealt with. So, but we know he is going to get dealt with. Another story, another day. But Mother Righteous is dead. Now all the other Sinisters are dead. So then we cut to Charles Xavier, and he is in his freshly new design cage. And he's explaining how his friends, like Reed Richards and Tony Starks, have always planned to put him in a cage. It's really getting like Planet Hulk vibes. And then he's like, even though they were right to do so, it doesn't make the pill any harder to swallow. And then he's like, but the world is going to continue exactly the way it always continues. As we see a mutant who decided to stay. She has horns and she has a shirt that says Krakoa was for lovers, which ain't that the truth, because they had a bunch of babies and they abandoned them all. But, you know, I guess Krakoa left, so the babies are being taken care of now. But then we got a guy who's looking at her and he has mankind tattooed to his forehead. Whew, if that had an allegory to his skinhead, I don't know what is. So then Professor Xavier goes, but what if I was just as suspicious of my friends as they were of me? And as we see the mankind head, I guess you could say, is about to stab the mutant, he goes, what if a long time ago I put a compulsion in everybody's mind? And all of a sudden he just stops. And then she runs away. He just turns around, starts walking until he's on top of a building and he drops his knife. And did he jump? I don't know. Maybe it was a warning like, hey, you might want to stop thinking this way. And if he keeps thinking this way, then he'll actually jump and die. So yes, Professor Xavier is still a threat. He's always been a threat. And him being in that cage, it's not going to change too much. So now there is a great story with Destiny, Mystique, Nightcrawler, and Rogue that we just do not have time to cover. Plus, I shouldn't cover everything. Like, you should read this story. It's a really good story. Written by the GOAT, Chris Claremont. But we're not going to cover it here because we got to cover the end. So then we go back to Professor Xavier's cage. And it just shows how powerful he is because of all these psychic blockers that are supposed to stop his telepathy and stop him from using his powers. He just Astro protects himself like he's Doctor Strange, but, you know, he's using his mind. And he just walks out to see how all of his X-Men are doing. He looks on Cyclops and Beast. They're in Alaska and they're at an Orchis facility. Cyclops is like, so what can you do with it? And Beast is like, I mean, I guess I could do something with it. I guess I got good bones. So that's going to be the headquarters of one X-Men team. We cut to Mexico City, Mexico, where we got Rogue and Gambit, and Gambit is insisting that this is their second honeymoon, and because it's their second honeymoon, they should do no superhero shenanigans whatsoever, talk about a team, do anything except for enjoy themselves. And then we cut to Chicago, Illinois, where Kitty Pryde is a bartender. And Professor Xavier says he's most proud of Kitty because she is getting herself out to life altogether. And that is something that a lot of people could not do. We cut to Canada, where Wolverine is being Wolverine. I mean, literally running with wolves like he's Kevin Costner or something. We cut to New York, where Miss Marvel's at. We cut to Malibu, California, where we see Havoc, and we see a X Factor poster like right next to him, so maybe he's about to be a part of X Factor. We cut to Forge, where looks like he's having a breakdown, so that's going to be interesting, because I think he's going to be part of X Force, if I'm not mistaken. Oh yeah, Forge is in Montana. We cut to United Nations, where Storm is doing her thing. She's on the world stage, and we also know she's going to have her own solo book, and she's going to be an Avenger. Oh, I cannot wait until her and Black Panther have some words. We go on tour, where we see Dazzler is back to being a superstar. And then we cut to deep space in the Shi'ar Empire. And Professor Xavier visits Jean, and Jean's the only one that actually knows that he's actually there. Have I made the right choices? Will my people survive and thrive and excel despite my great sins? And Jean goes, "You're asking me?" And Charles is like, "You're the only one that I'm asking, Jean." And she goes, "I am life, Charles. I am fire. I am the Phoenix. I am not a priest. I have no absolutions to offer you." So Charles is like, "This white dwarf star, you're bringing it back to life." And she goes, "Without it, the system will die." He goes, "So you're saving life." "Millions, Charles. Millions." And then he goes, "I have my answer." So then he starts falling back down to his cage. And I guess he's like, "Goodbye, homeland. Goodbye, my dream. Goodbye, my children." He falls back into his body, and his vitals go flat. So then whoever these soldiers are that's holding him, they're like, "Oh my God, he's not responding." And they're like, "Open the door." And one of the scientists goes, "Do you know who that is?" And they're like, "Just open the damn door." And they can start to check him. They go, I'm not getting any pulse." They're like, "Bring in the medic, please." And I don't know what that symbol is, but I guess this is the new enemy of the X-Men. So then we cut to ATL, Georgia, 2 days after, I guess, Charles decided to end it all. And we see some board members talking. They're like, "Dr. Ellis, nobody is questioning your credentials, but the monetary assets that we have gathered for this operations is in the 10-figure range." I don't know if you guys remember The Last Boy Scout, but I watched it when I was a kid. And I remember the owner of the football team, he was talking to Bruce Willis, and he goes, "Son, we're talking about billions. That's 9 zeros, son." And one of the board members is like, "Nah, forget this. All you are is a glorified podcaster." I was like, damn. And Dr. Ellis goes, "You know what? You need me. Trust me, because the key is that school. The very idea has to become obliterated. It has to become something that is feared. It has to haunt the dreams of every mutant on Earth. And you need me to make that happen. Because frankly, none of you guys have the stomach for what needs to happen next." So then we cut to a military ambulance. Professor Xavier is being transported. And I guess he's not dead, but he's like a vegetable. Almost like what he did to Magneto during Fatal Attractions, which I will have a link in the description if anybody watched this long. For one thing, you're a real one. For two, if you didn't watch the Fatal Attraction series that I made, links in the description for you. And one of them's wondering if he's ever going to come out of his coma. And one of them's like, "Nah, I worked in a coma ward and they never come out of their coma." And as he says that, Professor Xavier's eyes open up. So these are the X books that we're going to start covering in July. Are you guys excited about this? Are you still bummed about Krakoa? Me, I'm both. I'm excited about what's coming up now. I'm bummed that Krakoa had to end, but this book was perfect. I mean, it ended everything perfectly in my eyes. Maybe not in your eyes. Please let me know in the comments how you feel. But me, I'm like, cool. Everything got closed out. Now I'm excited to get this thing started. Few things I want to know about though. What the hell happened to Darwin? He became like this AI type figure. He was in the vault, and even when the vault came out, like, we still didn't hear from him. Like, I want to know what happened to him. Like, bring him back, please. He's a beast. Bring him back. And eventually I want to see Hope again. Like, you gotta bring him back to life. I think it's cool. She's looking like a phoenix-like figure with Jean, and she's also like part of Krakoa, but I want Hope back. Bring back Hope. Anyway, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about all this.